All right, welcome to another episode of Can You Connect? And this is Mr.WalkThatWalk. And this episode, we're going to be going on addiction to intercourse. So, we're going to start off with a Caucasian male from the U.S. who's having certain troubles. He mentioned that he was looking at porn at 11 years old and was, got hooked on it pretty early and was afraid people would judge him. And, so he got married, got kids, but into the marriage started failing. And he began, acting out again. And she knew, something was a bit off with him, but when asked, he would refuse to tell her, to the point where he was thinking about taking his own life due to not wanting to, hurt her. And to the point where he actually had a plan and had a action and material to do these things. Luckily, he ended up speaking with family and friends who helped him through this hard time, and which supported him to go get help. And he went to a meeting to get recovery and support from other people, which has been helping him along his journey so far. The next person we are going to go over is Terry Crews. So, African American male. Mentioned at around 9 or 10, finding his uncle's stash of porn. So he found his uncle's stash, and then through that gained, he got a lot of interest from it, and he started becoming addicted to porn and watching that on a consistent basis. And he didn't really realize it was starting to become a problem until he would, he's also somebody who's married, who he would get into arguments with his wife, and then he just thought he needed porn. At a certain point, he didn't really act out, but he did do something that he shouldn't have done. Was while shooting a video that he was pretty nervous about, feeling a bit insecure about, he ended up getting a massage and got a hand job from somebody, and ended up keeping that a secret due to, he mentioned feeling alone on set for the movie, and just had a lot of anxiety and pressure on him not to mess up, because he's still having those thoughts of rejection about being let go from the NFL. So he was worried about getting rejected from this movie part and doing something wrong and they'll kick him out. So him getting that relief in a way calmed him down. And at a certain point, he was, doing these things on a consistent basis, watching porn consistently, to the point where, his wife was like wondering what's going on with him and why he's doing these things. And he was getting angry a bit with her because he was hiding these things. So, they finally had a talk, and he finally decided to just tell her what was going on and not to hide it. However, he told her everything about the hand job and everything else, and she ended up leaving for, I believe, a time period. And, through that, he did feel guilty and work on doing positive things going forward. And he ended up getting his family back and working on seeing people in a different way as well, as people, rather than objects, because he said, he was watching so much stuff that he was just seeing people as objects and sex objects rather than human beings. So he's got a lot of therapy and got a lot of healing through that to work through those things to make those improvements, and can now speak about it today. Our next person is going to be another Caucasian male who would often get triggered by multiple things. So I guess if anything, an object, a person, anything that reminds him in a sexual manner, those things would trigger him throughout the day, and which will cause him to want to act out. So this person was married as well. He would often cheat on his wife multiple times, and would lie all the time. And at some point, finally became honest with his wife and everybody else. And his wife, I believe, had him leave the house, I think had him leave the house for some time, and decided to work on it with him, and been encouraging him to come home right after work to put his kids to bed. And he's been working on, and that was devastating for him to lose his family and everything, and not being around them. So he's been trying to work on doing better and getting help, and he was definitely happy to just tell the truth and be honest and get everything off of him. Our next person is going to be a Hispanic woman. She mentioned at 12 years old she was diagnosed with scoliosis, which kind of made her have a bad sense of self-esteem, and insecurities, and she felt weird about herself and felt like different from the other kids. So at a certain point she discovered porn a bit young, maybe around 12, and she was using the internet to get into chat rooms, doing webcam stuff. Felt as though she was doing something wrong, but she was continuing to do these things, and she ended up getting help and receiving assistance for that. They're not flush out stories, we're just going over people's experiences. It would be nice if there was all flushed out, but some of them were not. Our next person is going to be a black woman, Jennifer Lewis, mentioned in her 20s. Her addiction to sex was pretty rampant. She was coming off the high of her performances, and she always needed it right after that. However, her being a celebrity also stopped her from sleeping with all types of people. So she would be a bit picky about people she would pick. But at times she would definitely have people pretty much every day. However, once STDs and once the AIDS kind of took out somebody she knew that was close to her, that kind of slowed her down and made her, rethink about a lot of things. She didn't want to lose her life to it, so she wanted to follow her passions and do what she enjoys. So that's what made her stop. There is another Caucasian lady. She's from the U.S. She would mention that she'll fantasize. She'll have fantasies about. She was 5. She had fantasies about cartoon characters having intercourse with each other. And then she watched. So this is fair warning. This is somebody who's been traumatized. I'm about to explain her trauma, her sexual trauma. Her father had her watch porn with him. And then at a certain point, they started acting some things out. Acting some scenes out. And she always looked at the door when that happened because she had siblings. So she always wanted her siblings to come save her, but nobody ever came in the room or nobody ever disturbed them when she was in the room with her dad. And in the morning, she'll just pretend like it didn't happen and he would probably do the same. But since it was her father, she still had love for him. But at a certain point, it stopped. He stopped doing that to her. And at a certain point, she didn't feel special anymore. Because that was a source of attention for her. She had that individual attention, just him and her. And through that experience, she knew that she was only wanted for sex and that was it. So that's what she kind of taught her as a child. And in a relationship, she often cheated and had, no boundaries and wanted the danger and pain and the risk. And of course, never felt good for her. She just wanted to be numb. And to a certain point, she almost took her life due to being alone. Because she was just getting used up by these people, but she never really felt close to anybody, never really had a connection with anybody. So still feel alone while you're doing that as well. So at a certain point, she became celibate, and she just took time to learn about intercourse and learn about sex and work on healing through pain and work on healing through what she'd been through, which set her up to be in a better relationship in the future. Our last person is another Caucasian lady who mentioned that her father had schizophrenia and never was able to provide her with love. Never able to give her any attention due to him being in and out the hospital. And she mentioned having intercourse at 12 which had her feel, powerful when she was feeling powerless, with low self-esteem, with, sorry. However, things did get out in her school, and people did shame her for doing these things and bully her for acting out and having intercourse early. However, but she wanted a connection with somebody. She wanted to feel loved by somebody, so she ended up, continuing to have intercourse with multiple people and had unstable relationships and breakups. And during the breakups and during the conflict, where she has not a breakup but a break from her relationship, she would have intercourse with multiple people and then come back and be in a relationship with the person and then get caught up in the cycle of having another argument and have another break and then sleep with a bunch of people and then come back to the person. So she usually attracted emotionally unavailable people. And she mentioned, when she was younger, she loved exploring intercourse and, it was happy and it was fun, especially in her 20s. However, but when she got pregnant and she ended up losing her child, her child passed away, her baby really passed away, that's when everything kind of went worse, to where now she's really worse because she's codependent on people. Now she's binging with sex, would have sex almost 20 times a week, never wanting to commit, scared to be alone, need that attention, scared to be vulnerable due to feeling like she does not deserve it, and feeling guilty, and didn't want to have intercourse with certain people, but she did, and she would get caught in the midst of that. So she had to deal with a lot of issues and drama and conflict. So these are just some certain things that certain people deal with. People who are having certain traumas when they're younger and having certain needs not being met. These are certain reasons why they're acting out sexually. So these are definitely certain things to keep in mind. Because they're missing something. Something's not there. Not keeping your partner in mind and not being respectful towards your partner and not having your partner, use you and just challenging them or them getting healing and them getting working through their addictions so that they could be better for themselves, so that they could be better for you if you want to continue with them. Because you don't have to continue with somebody who's is refusing to get help and not really doing anything to fix it as well. So just certain things to keep in mind of what they're going through and what they went through. So cool. So this will definitely conclude this episode, and we'll definitely be supporting a Black-owned business. And the name of the business is Mudgie Wear. So this is a clothing company. So I'll put their information in the description below. And definitely support the musician who did the intro and outro to our videos, and the person who made my avatar. I'm a clinical social worker for the state of Maryland who does individual, family, and couples therapy. So definitely, if you need me, definitely send me an email. But other than that, y'all definitely have a good rest of the night and or a good rest of the day.